What's going on, guys? Farzin Vasugian here with you for another episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Thanks for joining me on a Wednesday late afternoon, doing this podcast a little earlier than expected. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all having a good week, staying warm, as we just got hit with some snow here in Kansas City. But hey, that's just the way things go. A lot to talk about here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Travis Kelce and his brother released a podcast early this morning, and it includes Travis Kelce addressing the Super Bowl and also addressing the retirement talk that's been surrounding him lately. Is the Chiefs run over? A lot of people reacting as to whether or not the Chiefs will get back to a Super Bowl ever again with this core group. We'll talk about that. Saquon Barkley spoke up and had something to say about Taylor Swift. I'll let you know what that is. A former Chief arrested, and one NFL player is saying that his team is very close to a championship. All of that and more here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. Appreciate all of you guys joining me here on this episode. Farzin Vasugian here with you, and want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That's where I go to for my sports ticketing needs. Football season is over, but a lot of sports action out there for you guys to catch, whether it's college basketball, the NBA, the NHL. Baseball season's coming up very soon. Go to SeatGeek to get your tickets there. And if you're a new customer, you can put in my promo code FARZIN and save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. So go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets. Before you purchase them at checkout, new customers can put in my promo code FARZIN and save $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. All right, let's get into it here. I see you guys coming in. I appreciate everyone tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I've been doing more Instagram live streams lately. I tried this before in the Instagram live streams. The audience wasn't very good before. Recently, they've been up. Obviously, it certainly helps with that. It was Super Bowl week and whatnot. I figured I'd give Instagram one more try. I always try to go live on Instagram on game day for the pregame live chat, the halftime live stream, and the postgame live chats. Because that's where we get a lot of people viewing on Instagram. Otherwise, the Instagram doesn't get a lot of viewers, which is understandable. Maybe a podcast format is not really conducive for something like Instagram, but if it works, it works. It's not, then hey, we give it a second chance. So giving it another go here for all of you following over at IG. Okay, let's get into it here because we've got a lot to discuss. First thing, housekeeping things. Obviously, we do our podcast Wednesdays. This season, we did it Mondays and Wednesdays. And obviously, whenever there was breaking news, of course, we do our Red Friday live chats. There were some days that there were breaking news. There was breaking news, I should say. And so we kind of did the podcast and the Red Friday live chat together. The Red Friday live chat is exclusively only on Facebook and YouTube. But we've had some days where there was breaking news, so we kind of had to do the podcast and the Red Friday live chat together, combining them. But obviously, we're in the off season now. Not really expecting anything big within the next 2 weeks. Obviously, we've got the combine near the end of the month, so we are going to revert back to doing the podcast on Wednesdays. The Red Friday live chats we'll do on this Red Friday. But as far as moving forward, that's going to be it just kind of depends on the news. If there's not a lot going on within the Chiefs world or the NFL, then we might just omit the Red Friday live chat for that specific week. Otherwise, it's going to be played out by ear. So if you're following on Facebook and YouTube, then definitely, you'll be notified when we go live. You'll be notified on your phone on YouTube if you turn on the bell notification. Facebook does not have that capability, at least not to my understanding. So make sure you guys are subscribed through YouTube, because if you are, you'll be notified whenever we do go live. So that's out of the way. Let's talk about Travis Kelce, because I think everyone tuned into the New Heights podcast wondering if he would address the retirement rumor, and he did. First off, he talked about the game, and he opened up about the fact that he felt like he didn't play his best. added that he felt like he wasn't a good leader for the team, and he's certainly not wrong. I mean, there were some issues in that one there with the drop. I can't remember what down it was, but it was going to be a first down had he caught it. And that was earlier on in the game. And then there was one play. I get it. It was a blowout at this point. But Travis Kelce on a play where Mahomes scrambled for a first down. Travis Kelce just kind of standing around watching Mahomes, I guess, waiting for him to do something. And Mahomes had to improvise because the play broke down and all the reads were basically not working. Everyone was covered down the field. Kelce could have at least ran an out route and tried to save Mahomes in that way, but just kind of stood where he was. The only time he bothered moving is when Mahomes fumbled at the end of the play. He recovered it. But that was kind of interesting. He's receiving a lot of criticism for that. Now, I know they record the podcast at kind of an odd time. I think sometimes Mondays, most days they record him Tuesdays. So I don't know if he saw the criticism that came out about him and the lazy play he had. But that's out there. Maybe he addresses it next week, maybe not. Because at this point, that would be old news this time next week. So, but as far as his level of play, I mean, it's certainly something to discuss, because when you look at Travis Kelce, he has stepped back the past couple of seasons. Last year, I didn't think Travis Kelce was too bad. At 34 years old for most of the season. Obviously, he fought through a couple of injuries. He needed 16 yards for the 1,000 yards. Obviously, he didn't play the first game of the season, dealt with an injury midway through the season, but fought through it, and then didn't play the last game of the year because of the fact the Chiefs were locked into the number 3 seed, which was a smart move. I've seen some people say, oh, it's just 16 yards. Yeah, but you're kind of making it obvious, and then you're making him exert all that energy just for 16 yards if you're going to make it too obvious. But in the long run, that self-imposed bye week really helped Travis Kelce and the rest of the offense last year in the postseason. So that certainly was something that boded well in Kansas City's favor. But when you're just looking at Travis Kelce's body of work this season, listen, I've been on the record many times that I feel like some people are too harsh on Travis Kelce and his production, because if you look at the number of tight ends, and I'm just talking the tight ends alone, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, they both had almost the same number of receptions this past season. Travis Kelce was third in receptions this year. Now, when it comes to among tight ends, when it comes to receiving yards, Bowers was first, followed by Trey McBride, and right behind him, George Kittle. So you got 3 tight ends there. Then it was Jonnu Smith from the Dolphins, and Travis Kelce was 5th. So as much as people want to talk about Travis Kelce not playing at a high level, yeah, his numbers certainly are not what they used to be, and he certainly admitted to that. He even said so on Stephen A's podcast. But he's 3rd in receptions and 5th in receiving yards among tight ends. Now, as far as touchdowns go, he only had 3 this season. That's not a lot. Some of it's on him, some of it's not on him. But I think the question now is, what do you do if you're Travis Kelce? Because his showing in the Super Bowl was not very good. And when you just kind of look at the salary cap, and the salary cap's not at the best spot for Kansas City. According to Over the Cap, the Chiefs have just north of $11.5 million in cap space for 2025. That is not a lot. Now, obviously, they're going to rework a couple of deals. Patrick Mahomes has a cap number of more than $66 million. They'll surely do something about that. His base salary is just over $16.6 million. Jawan Taylor, that's the big one right there. His base salary is $19.5 million, and his cap number is over $27 million. That is a problem. Joe Thuney, very close to a cap number of $27 million. I have a feeling, I think the Chiefs owe it to Joe Thuney to not restructure anything with him, considering they made him play left tackle. Left tackles make a hell of a lot more than left guards. and he wasn't bitching and moaning about not being paid like a left tackle, even though the Chiefs pushed him out there. They asked him to do that, and he did it without any complaints. So I feel like Tooney has certainly earned his spot. Now, I will say this about Kelce, because Kelce's cap number is $19.8 million. Base salary is $4.5 million. Has a big roster bonus there of $12.5 million. So there's a lot on Travis Kelce right there. And again, his production is going down gradually. You're certainly noticing it. And he is going to turn 36 years old in October. So what do you do if you're Travis Kelce? Because he did address the retirement rumor today, and that is certainly worth revisiting from his podcast here. And you see it on the screen there. Says he's not going to make any kind of decision anytime soon. He thinks he can play, but he also wants to do what's best for the team. He doesn't ever want to put himself in a position where he is, as he worded it, not half-assing it, and wants to make sure he's not hurting the team in any way. So that, to me, I can certainly respect him being considerate of all of the above right there. It's not just about him. You got to think of your family, your teammates, the organization. Are you an asset or are you a liability? Certainly can appreciate all of that. And if you look at the quote here, or if you listen to the podcast, you'll know that he certainly makes it very clear that he's thinking of his teammates and what he wants to do. Obviously, with an ending like that, I don't think he wants to end a season like that ever. Certainly wants to come back and right the wrong one last time. He's got 1 year left on his contract, where the Chiefs gave him that pay raise last offseason. But what do you do if you're the Chiefs? What's the what is the right move for the Chiefs moving forward? I'll say this right now, because given the effort we saw in Super Bowl 59, and again, you got to think of his age and the production slowly going down. The production is only going to continue to go down. I don't know if Travis Kelce is really helping the team with that cap number of $19.8 million. I really don't. I mean, that $19.8 million can be used for a lot of things. The Chiefs certainly need to restructure Mahomes and Jawan Taylor. Jawan Taylor is a must, but again, you don't just say, okay, I'm restructuring this person. The player's got to agree to it. And the thing about Jawan Taylor, keep in mind, his base salary last year was just over $1 million. His cap numbers was $5.8 million. And the big that was 2023, to be clear, his first year with the Chiefs. Last year, 2024, that's when the big part of his contract kicked in, with the cap number of more than $19 million, almost $19.4 million. That was 7.7% of the team's salary cap. This upcoming season, it's at almost $27.4 million. And that is taking up 9.9% of the salary cap, almost 1/10 of the team's salary cap. A player like Jawan Taylor should not take up almost 1/10 of your salary cap. No way. And listen, Brett Veach, he's obviously a really intelligent guy, obviously has done a great job with everything he's done, turning this football team around the way he has, finding guys in certain positions that are needed, especially with offensive line and wide receiver. So Brett Veach knows damn well that this is not an acceptable situation for Jawan Taylor to have that kind of deal. And next year is going to be the same exact thing. 19.5 base salary, almost 27.4 million in the salary cap. That's not good. You definitely need either he's got to take a pay cut, or you got to work on some sort of an agreement here where they can come to terms on something and get rid of him, because the penalty is certainly a liability with him, and his level of play certainly is very inconsistent to be probably the highest paid right tackle in the NFL. So, I mean, listen, he's 28. I suppose there's maybe a little bit of upside with him, But it would just depend on what team would really see the value. Obviously, no team is going to take him for that kind of deal right there. So there's a lot to figure out for Brett Veach just with Juwan Taylor alone. So if you can figure out how to restructure Juwan Taylor's deal and agree to some sort of terms, the Travis Kelce one, listen, I'll just say it. Let's just say Travis Kelce chooses to retire. And I don't say that lightly or with any enjoyment here. I've said, you guys know my thoughts on Travis Kelce. I think he's the best tight end in NFL history. With the number of 1,000-yard receiving seasons, not even close to what any other tight end has been able to put together. His postseason numbers at a Jerry Rice level, which is damn near impossible, but he's the only one that's done it. Just the amount of things that Travis Kelce has accomplished in his career certainly makes him the best tight end in NFL history. And don't take my word for it. I've said this before. Mitch Holthus, who's announced every game in the Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce eras, has said that Travis Kelce is the tight end GOAT, the best player ever at that position. But with his, and as much as I would like for Travis Kelce to get another ring, when you just look at the contract situation, it's really not the friendliest one. And I get it. Travis Kelce was never demanding a lot of money. When Tyreek Hill left, he wasn't necessarily taking a subtle shot at him, but Travis Kelce was on the cover of a bunch of magazines the year before. And usually when you do a cover shoot, you do a big photo shoot with these magazines, and you also do an exclusive interview with them. And in one of them, and forgive me, I can't remember which one it is because he did a million of these, he said that Tyreek Hill left and is making 2 to 3 times more than what he made in Kansas City. Travis Kelce's agent Travis Kelce opened up about this. His agent was like, hey, we can always make more money through the Chiefs. But when you just look at Kelce, he's never wanted to demand that kind of money, which was kind of a surprise last offseason in April when Travis Kelce did get that pay raise. That kind of came out of nowhere because we just heard all along that Travis Kelce was saying, yeah, I'm not doing this to be the highest paid at this position. I think other tight ends have wanted him to get that pay raise because if Kelce got the pay raise, then maybe it would allow them to make more money and it would help reset the market in a way. But we haven't seen that up until last offseason. I just think ultimately right now, Kelce didn't demand much in the future. So is this a way to make up to him for not demanding much in the past? I suppose. But listen, man, you got to make a business decision here. And obviously for the Chiefs, the standard is not reaching the AFC Championship for an 8th consecutive year or getting back to the standard is win. And if it's not a win, it's certainly viewed as a failed season. Maybe not in this moment you feel this way, but down the road you can look back and say, okay, well, they didn't win every single season. The Patriots didn't win every single year during the 18 seasons Tom Brady was there. They won a third of the time. I say that like it's very little. I mean, 6 Super Bowls, and I'm just counting the ones with the Patriots. The Chiefs, they've won 3 Super Bowls. In these 7 seasons, Mahomes has been the starting quarterback. Almost half the seasons that Mahomes has been the starting quarterback of the Chiefs. Obviously, went to 2 more. They've been to the AFC title game every single year. I get right now, this moment, that's not something anyone cares about. And I know Jason Kelce was kind of saying the same thing to his brother today, or rather last night when they recorded this podcast. But yeah, I mean, listen, as of right now, when you're just looking at the salary cap situation, $19.8 million as far as the cap number goes for Kelce, that is a lot, especially for a guy whose level of play is declining. This is a little easier to say because when you look at Noah Gray had a fairly good season as a number 2 tight end, had a pretty quiet postseason, didn't get involved as much as I thought he would, but he certainly made some plays this season and had multiple games where he had multiple touchdowns. So Noah Gray is someone that I think is in a position where you can move forward with him as a number 1 tight end. I know Travis Kelce said last year, I think around training camp time, or maybe it was during OTAs, that he doesn't want a lighter workload. He wants to have the same kind of workload that he's had his entire career. But I think you've got to be honest and look at the fact that he didn't have the same type of stats. And I don't put it all on Travis Kelce. I think Mahomes dealing with the bad offensive line play he dealt with. That's one of those situations where it's like, maybe if Mahomes had the right pocket, he probably hits Kelce on a lot of those open plays. Because on ESPN Analytics, this was at the midway point of the season, because people kept talking about how Kelce can't get open and he's double teamed. Not necessarily the case. If you were looking at some of the analytics out there, Kelce was one of the best in the NFL at getting open, and just turned out that Mahomes got the ball to him quite a lot this year. And I don't know if I have that numbers in front of me still. I'll look that up real quickly. What was it? Because it was the third most among tight ends for receptions, 97 receptions. I mean, that's still a pretty high number. But in terms of the yardage, 823 yards, this has to be the lowest yard per catch average for Travis Kelce in his career, is it not? Just looking at that real quickly. Yeah, it is the lowest, not even close. The touchdown numbers, also the lowest that it's ever been, 8.5 yards per catch. The second lowest was last season at 10.6. And then the lowest before that, it was 12.2, which is very similar to what it's been to other years. So, it's certainly been different for Travis Kelce. He had 12 touchdowns in 2022, the most he's had in a single season. That was the first year without Tyreek Hill. That was also the same year Patrick Mahomes won league MVP for the second time. But I think there's when you just look at the Travis Kelce situation at hand here, still playing at a good level, just not as high of a level. And when you look at the contract right there, it's not friendly to the team, especially when you have to address the offensive line. You've got to address the offensive line. And that is something that you're just not. Let me ask you guys this right now. Would you be opposed if the Chiefs moved away from Travis Kelce, meaning either he retires, or this doesn't sound great, if the Chiefs were to trade him? I know that sounds like a really bad ending to Travis Kelce's time in Kansas City, but you got to do what's best for you right now. I would not be opposed to Travis Kelce coming back if he took a pay cut. I just think the cap number right there is really bad and just not a good look for Kansas City's offense. Kansas City has some things to address right now. And again, I don't want to put it all on Kelce. It's just, he's at that point where he's old, if we're just being upfront and honest here. And when you look at Juwan Taylor, he's got a cap number of more than $27 million. That is not going to work at all for this football team. Let's just say, and I'll calculate this on the spot here. I mean, Kelce is at $19.8 million. If you were to find a way to get that in half, you got $19.9 million to work with. And then for Juwan Taylor, I mean, let's just say 27 million. Let's just say 400,000. I mean, it's pretty close. It's 27.39. If you were to find a way to get that in half, you can open yourself more than $23 million in cap space there, to go along with the 11 million you have, putting you at $34 million. Maybe it would be a little higher. It'd be 35 million because it's at 11 and a half. Yeah. So I think when you just look at that alone, finding a way to restructure those two players' contracts certainly will play a big hand in that. I'm seeing a lot of you guys are talking about the offensive line coach, Andy Heck. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot. I saw this near the beginning of the show. I'm seeing some of it right now. Yeah, Andy Heck. I mean, listen, the Chiefs' offensive line is a weird one because they got guys like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith outside of the first round. And look, obviously, when you draft players outside of the first round, no one truly knows what a player is going to turn into. You can't ever say, oh, hey, this guy is a guy who should have been taken in the first round. No way that the Chiefs expect that they would have landed possibly the best center and the best right guard in that same draft class. Obviously, they've extended Creed Humphrey long term, so he's going to be here for a few more years. Trey Smith is hitting free agency. Surely the franchise tag is going to be used on either Bolton or Smith. We'll have to see. I did say last podcast, the Chiefs do have a really good young pass blocker in Hunter Norzad. Looked great against the Denver Broncos. Low snaps, but as far as his blocking goes, it was great as a center. Is that a guy you consider shifting over to right guard if you cannot come to a deal with Trey Smith? I think that would be a great replacement. And by the way, I know a lot of people are not going to like hearing this, but I'll say it. Because of how sticky the salary cap is right now for the Chiefs, meaning they don't have a lot of wiggle room to work with, don't be surprised if someone like Sky Moore stays, because I think Sky Moore has one more year left in his rookie contract. I know Sky Moore is not the most popular name, but that might be somebody who the Chiefs keep just for contract purposes. It'd be a little easier to keep him rather than try to sign someone off the street to be your number 5, 6, or 7, seventh wide receiver on the team. Again, I know they might also re-sign McCole Hardman. And again, I know Hardman probably not a player that a lot of people are really behind anymore. Sure, he had that big moment last year in the Super Bowl, but one moment certainly is not a reflection of your overall body of work, which I've said many times. They might need to keep some of those guys for money purposes because they don't have a lot of room to work with here. When you look at, and by the way, what was the big expectation this year? Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. Well, unfortunately, we never saw that. Those three never played together. Hollywood got hurt on the first preseason snap. Rice got hurt in week 4 early in that game. And Xavier Worthy just kind of had to do what was expected of those two players. And he had to learn on the spot in a very difficult manner because the expectation was, hey, you got Hollywood to your right, you got Rice to your left, and you got a great slot receiver, a speedy receiver in Worthy. And obviously Worthy, I know, listen, I'm not going too crazy over Worthy's Super Bowl because a lot of those were in garbage time. And listen, I get it. I know some athletes out there, when they get certain stats, you can look back, like if they have a record-breaking season, you can look through every game and be like, well, some of it wasn't garbage time. So I get it. I mean, you have to play out the entire game. You can't just, call mercy in the middle of the third quarter when it probably could have been called that way if they had to. But Xavier Worthy, I mean, didn't quit. He went out there, made some plays, and not all of them were against backups. You still had some of their key players, very good players, that were on the field, but they were also playing more lax and not really being aggressive defensively speaking. They kind of got the job done about halftime or midway through the third quarter, if we're being honest. But the point still stands here. The whole situation with the Chiefs wide receivers, you have DeAndre Hopkins, who you brought in, and the Chiefs turnovers decreased by a lot when he joined the team. Unfortunately, not the case in the Super Bowl. And Hollywood Brown, those two guys are set to hit free agency here. I know some people are talking about if the Chiefs could be in the running for Cooper Kupp. I know on ESPN today they were talking about if T. Higgins would join Kansas City. I mean, unless you figure out how to restructure a couple of those deals here, I don't think Kansas City is going to be in the market for a big name wide receiver. There's just no way. There's really no way. I would love for Hollywood Brown to stay because of the potential there. I know he's dealt with some injuries in the past, but he signed for $8 million last year. And he did say in his introductory press conference that he was offered more money elsewhere, but turned those down because he wanted to play with Patrick Mahomes. Well, he only played really, 4 or 5 games with him, 2 in the regular season, 3 in the postseason. But that's just one of those situations, and I think that's the most unfortunate part about this season is we never saw that wide receiver trio play out. The speed, Rashee Rice. I mean, in the games where we saw Rice, he just looked faster, looked better. He looked like he was a 10-year pro. Didn't look like a guy who was going from his rookie season to his second season. Looked like he was going from rookie to year 10, just the way he was playing in the games last year. He was in the top 5 in touchdown catches, receptions, and yards. So hopefully, and listen, obviously he's got that suspension that we're all anticipating here. So Max Shen says, I miss Rice. Yeah, I miss him too. But listen, the way I kind of see it, with the suspension kind of looming over his head, he'll deal with that, I assume. I know it kind of feels like it's forgotten about at this point, but it's still there. I don't think it's going to be as big as a lot of people think it is. I think the longer this whole thing takes, the shorter the suspension will be. And trust me, a lot of people are going to be surprised by this. They really will. But he's going to get a 4, 6, maybe an 8-game suspension. The way I see it is he goes through OTAs and training camp in the preseason with the team. And then once the season starts, he serves that suspension. He trains on his own. I think you can come back with a week or two left in your suspension. You can train with the team, but you can't obviously be at the games and whatnot. Or maybe you can, I don't know, just on the sidelines in street clothes. I know they changed that rule at some point. But anyway, my point is you have Rice, who you can certainly use in those games, because he'll provide a nice little boost for your offense when he comes back. He'll be fresh, ready to go. But who are your other wide receivers going to be right now, or going into 2025 rather? Obviously, you've got Xavier Worthy, who had a very successful rookie season. Can you get Hollywood Brown to come back? Is DeAndre Hopkins someone worth having coming back? I mean, I don't know. Listen, Hopkins has made a lot of money. He obviously had to sign somewhere, but being in Kansas City, because the thing about DeAndre Hopkins, phenomenal wide receiver. He's in the Hall of Fame one day, 100%. But he never even came close to a Super Bowl. He was injured in the Arizona playoff game that he when he was a part of that team. When was the last time Hopkins played a playoff game prior to joining Kansas City this season? It was a 24-0 game where the Texans got off to a 24-0 lead, and it was erased in one quarter by the Chiefs. And 9 minutes? Yeah, that game. That was the last time Hopkins played a playoff game. Hopkins played in the AFC Championship game and in a Super Bowl for the first time in his career. Does he look at that and say, hey, look, I'm 33, 32, whatever he is right now, made a lot of money. Maybe it's in my best interest to take less so I can finally get a ring? Or does he want to play out the last couple of years of his career making as much money as he can? I don't know. I mean, a lot of these guys have decisions to make. Listen, I know everyone wants to win a championship, but everyone also wants to look out for themselves. 1,000%. Here's something I hate, and I know I say this just about every year. Yeah, he did get a touchdown, and I know Kevin Burkhardt mentioned this. It doesn't really feel that way in the moment, but it's going to be a nice memento for him because he's played his entire career just trying to get to a Super Bowl and never came close until this past week, where he had that touchdown catch. But you know what I really hate, and I know I bring this up every year when we talk about free agency and money and whatnot. So many athletes say, oh, well, it's not about the money. Bullshit. Come on. Like, you can't be doing that. You can't tell me that it's not about the money for you, yet a lot of these players hold out to get their max value. Yeah, I'm not shaming them for it, but I am going to shame them for saying, hey, it's not about, I'm not saying any of these players said this, just to be very, very clear. By the way, this is one of my least favorite things about the internet, especially when you're an NFL fan, because the NFL offseason news is always bigger than Major League Baseball or even hockey and even the NBA sometimes. But every offseason, you get these fake Adam Schefter accounts where they intentionally misspell one letter of Adam Schefter's name, or they turn the letter E into a 3, or they sneak in an underscore somewhere in there. So they try to be smooth. Someone created a false Adam Schefter account, and they basically said that DeAndre Hopkins informed Andy Reid that he's retiring. If you were to see that, that is absolutely false. I had someone on Facebook today claiming that they were my rep, which I don't. Come on. And they were claiming that I'm on I'm not going to say the name of the app because I've heard very negative things about it. They basically said I was on a messaging app and that I would interact with you guys exclusively on there because my DMs are closed. Please don't believe that shit. If it doesn't come from me, don't believe that shit. But anyway, I just had to get that off my chest. So the Chiefs have some decisions to make this offseason. I know some of you guys were talking about Kareem Hunt. Yes, he's a free agent as well. He's going to be 30 years old next season. So this is why I told you guys, hopefully the Chiefs pull off the three-peat, which unfortunately they didn't, because after this, there's going to be a lot of turnover. And I hate to say it, and I showed you guys the list already on the podcast on Monday and also earlier in the week. There is a long, long list of free agents. You ain't bringing everybody back. And I mean, listen, there are a lot of great players on that list. I don't know who's going to come back. It is a very long list. And when you look at guys like Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, Charles Omenihu, Hollywood Brown, DJ Humphries, Uche, Turk Wharton, who I really hope they can bring back, a very underrated defensive tackle, Justin Watson, who's been here for a couple of years, Samaje Perine, who played well this season, James Winchester, who's been on this team for as long as Andy Reid and Travis Kelce have, Juju, Hardman. I mean, you got a lot of guys on this list here. Matt Ariza, Chiefs might be in the market for a new punter very soon. This is not the greatest offseason to go into here, because there's going to be a lot of turnover. Oh yeah, for those of you laughing about, it's really funny. Well, it's not really funny, but I'll get these like fake impersonator accounts, people pretending to be me. I had one video go viral, the Man Cave video, actually, a couple of years ago during the offseason. And there were a bunch of people, ESPN, House of Highlights, SB Nation, all these media outlets requesting permission to use my footage. And somebody created an account with my name, misspelling one letter of the name, and was like being rude in those responses, and even saying like racial slurs. It's like, Jesus Christ, like, how do people have this much time on their hands? Seriously, I've never understood it. I'm sure you guys have seen this, and props to the admins, because they've done a really good job of cleaning them up as much as possible. So hopefully you haven't seen much of it lately, but if I'm sure you guys haven't seen it at least once. There are a lot of athletes, like Chiefs players, who pretend to be the players. And they're like, oh, hey, I'm Patrick Mahomes. Message me privately. I would like to talk to you. It's funny because sometimes I get those comments while the players are practicing. It's like, yeah, Patrick in the middle of his practice wants to comment on my page. Yeah, 100%, totally. It's actually sad because I did see a fake Mahomes account interact with someone on my page, and it was like a genuine back and forth. The poor person, whoever it was, actually thought it was Patrick Mahomes that they were interacting with. But John says, you hit big time when you get an imposter. Yeah, I guess. I made it. That's how you made it. But back on topic here, Brett Veach, you got a difficult job here. And listen, Brett Veach knows it's going to be a very difficult offseason. Brett Veach has dealt with difficult off seasons already. Do you guys not remember the offseason where the Chiefs had only $177 in cap space? $177 freaking dollars in cap space. Not 177,000, not 177 million. 177 million would be insane. $177, 3 digits. 3 digits. And he figured a way to get out of that hellhole. Because remember early on in Brett Veach's tenure as a GM, replacing John Dorsey at a very odd time. It was right before, or not right before, more towards the end of OTAs. His first order of business was to get the Chiefs out of their salary cap hellhole. Unfortunately, the Chiefs overpaid Justin Houston and Eric Berry. John Dorsey waited way too long to extend those guys. And when he did wait, Houston got 22 sacks one year, and Eric Berry had a phenomenal defensive season one year. And those players and their agents both had all the leverage in the world. And then what happened? Dorsey made them the highest paid players in the history at their positions at the time. And then they both got hurt. Fair or not, if you give someone a massive contract and they get hurt, the general manager gets criticized for it. And if that happens over and over again, the owners don't like it. They're going to be like, dude, you're paying You're paying these guys and they keep getting hurt. So again, might not be fair. Might even be bad luck, sure, but that's the way general managers are judged. When you look at Brett Veach, I mean, yes, he's given a couple of bad contracts. No GM is ever going to bat 1,000 on that. But Brett Veach has always constructed a roster to put the Chiefs in position to contend. They traded away Tyreek Hill. Name me an organization that trades away their all-pro premier dynamic wide receiver, a wide receiver that we've never seen, nor maybe will never see again in NFL history. And they still find a way to get to 3 straight Super Bowls, winning the first 2. I mean, Brett Veach knows what he's doing. Same thing with L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, the defense took a little bit of a step back. I don't think the defensive effort from the Super Bowl had anything to do with L'Jarius Sneed's absence, because I see some people bringing that up. The Chiefs defensively were fine in that game. As far as I'm concerned, when it was 24-0 at halftime, only 10 of those points the defense was responsible for. Okay. The Mahomes pick 6 and the Mahomes interception, setting them up in the red zone. I mean, you cannot put that on the defense. Just no. You absolutely can't. Max Shen says, what do you think about Chris Jones? He's average to me, real talk. Yeah, Chris Jones. I mean, listen, I get the criticism with Chris Jones, especially last offseason when he kept talking about wanting to have 20 sacks and defensive player of the year and all that stuff, which is very, very difficult to do for a defensive tackle. But I feel like, for what you're getting paid, you do need those sack production numbers there. I don't know. I will say, I think for his first year in the new contract, certainly didn't help. But he wasn't he the leader among all defensive tackles and pressures? I mean, if you can't get the sacks, the next best thing you got to get is the pressures. It's just that a lot of quarterbacks, even Bryce Young this year, who got benched at one point this season, he found a way to get the open receivers. And that was when Jalen Watson was hurt and Najee Johnson was playing. So that certainly played a big factor. If L'Jarius Sneed was on the team, could you have seen a difference in sack production? Maybe. But if you kept L'Jarius Sneed, you were not going to have Chris Jones. It was one or the other. As much as people hate to hear it, that's really what it was. And Kansas City's defense, and I know Chris Jones has played a couple of games recently, or the Chiefs have played a couple of games without Chris Jones recently. The Lions opener last season and the Steelers game this year. Chiefs defense didn't play well. Or I'm sorry, they did play well. The opposing offenses didn't play that great. But that is a small sample size. It is a small sample size. Yeah, I really like Leo Chenal. I said all offseason long that Leo Chenal was going to have a really good year. And I think he did a good job replacing Willie Gay. I know Willie Gay. I think he's available. I've seen a lot of people say that Willie Gay should come back to Kansas City. I mean, listen, let's see about that one, because you have Drew Tranquill under contract. I think that a very friendly contract, by the way, that might be an indication that Bolton is going to be done with the team. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see. Leo Chenal is still on a rookie deal, and I thought he played really well in his first year as a starter, getting the snaps that Willie Gay got. Did very well, especially against the run. I hope the Chiefs have the same group of linebackers, because replacing any of those 3 guys would be very, very difficult to do. So we'll see. I'm just skimming through some comments here. I know you guys are throwing a lot my way. Let me check Instagram, because I know I have not been checking the Instagram as much. Yeah, Lloyd Mayweather. Yeah, if you got a question, post it, because this is the time to do it. Still the number one. I love how you spelled that. My friend said the Raiders are going to be scrubs again this year. Any thoughts? I mean, listen, hiring a 74-year-old head coach is never ideal, unless that 74-year-old head coach is Pete Carroll. I have said on the record, I mean, that is a great hire for the Raiders, for an organization that has really been the laughingstock for 22 years. They have not won a playoff game in 22 years. The fact that they've even appeared in the playoff twice is a miracle. They still have a lot of things to figure out. A lot of things. They're still the Raiders at the end of the day. So I've said before, maybe a Russell Wilson reunion in Vegas for Pete Carroll and Russ, but I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if they really want to go that direction because Russell Wilson has not really looked great the last couple of years. The Steelers were on a terrible decline going into the playoffs. I mean, if there was one more week, like if we had a week 18, I'm pretty confident that the Bengals could have surpassed the Steelers to make the playoffs, but that's just the way things go sometimes. Just really wasn't their year. Darnell says we might let Bolton walk. I don't think they're going to let him walk, Darnell. They've got to use a franchise tag. I think whoever they don't re-sign, kind of like last year when it was between Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed, they re-signed Chris Jones, but they used a franchise tag on L'Jarius Sneed. And they ended up trading Sneed to the Titans for a very, very high third-round pick. So that is, and listen, unfortunately, Sneed joined Tennessee, signed a big contract, and got hurt. What did I tell you guys? General manager, and that general manager got fired, by the way. That's just the way it all works out, man. Again, may not be fair, but that's the way it goes. I think whoever they don't re-sign will be tagged and traded. I do believe that. Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers? Who? Okay, Chase says Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. Daniel says Aaron Rodgers might retire or play for the Titans. I mean, the Titans I could see because they are desperate for anything. I still think it's silly they fired Mike Vrabel. That was dumb. I don't think Vrabel cares. Like, he's going back to where he played for a majority of his career, so good for him. And trust me, the Patriots, I don't know if the Patriots are going to be a playoff team, but they will be competitive this year. They will absolutely make improvements this season. Trent McDuffie still has one more year left in his deal. I know on FS1, I think Chase Daniel said this. I think Chase Daniel said McDuffie and Karlaftis are free agents. That is not correct. They have one more year left, but they are eligible for new deals. Just to be clear on that. Just skimming through Pittsburgh, I guess. I mean, listen, if you're Pittsburgh, like, and I get the criticism around Pittsburgh is, yeah, we're getting winning seasons, but we're not doing anything with it. They're gonna want to do something else. I don't think they want Aaron Rodgers. Just no way. Do I think Worthy is going to resign Xavier Worthy? He's on a rookie deal, so he's still on the team. Unless you're thinking of a different Worthy, I don't know who else named Worthy is on the team. Did you mean Watson, Jalen Watson, or Justin Watson? I mean, I don't know. I thought maybe there was a chance you might have been hit with the autocorrect there, but hey, Farzine, did it look like to you Mahomes was asleep in the Super Bowl? I don't necessarily think he was asleep. I just think he had no time to work with. And listen, it's not just the offensive line. I said this on Monday. I said this after the game. Mahomes has to bear some of the responsibility as well, because the two interceptions he threw had nothing to do with pressure or any of that. Those were two very terrible decisions by you meant Watson. Okay, Justin Watson. Yeah, Justin Watson's been a good depth player, and he's not going to be very expensive. I could see that. I know that's not the most exciting name for Chiefs fans, especially with the drops that he's dealt with in the past, but when you're looking at the salary cap, I think you gotta maybe settle for some of these guys. Like I said, again, I know not a popular name, but for those of you who came into the live stream a little late, I mentioned that Sky Moore might stay on the team for the final year of it. Or wait, yeah, might stay for one more year because he's not really taking up much of your salary cap. His base salary is $1.5 million. As far as the cap number goes, it's just over $2 million. That's I know no one values him even for $1, but when you look at the salary cap and the situation at hand, that's kind of a good thing for Kansas City. So I'm very curious to see what happens there, that wide receiver position, because there's a lot to figure out there. They've got a lot of wide receivers hitting free agency for sure. Do I think they use the tag on Bolton or Reed? Justin Reed? Yeah, we haven't even talked about Justin Reed. He's a guy that's, or Trey Smith. I don't think it's going to be Justin Reed. I think they really like the rookie they drafted last year, Jaden Hicks. I thought he was really good in the games he played, especially where he got some significant snaps during the 3 games in 11 days. He stepped up during that stretch. I could see it. I think of those 3 guys, Bolton, Reed, and Smith, Smith has to be your number 1 priority. And that's not going to be an easy keep right there because the card market is insanely high. So Trey Smith is bound to hit the jackpot somewhere. But I think if they're struggling to keep Trey Smith, I can see them using that to tag him. But if they can find a way to re-sign him, they'll tag Bolton because they're not going to just let him walk. I don't think so. I don't think they'll just let him walk. Big things should come for Travis. He just had a bad season. I wouldn't say bad, Teresa. I mean, he it's not like it was horrible. Like I said, he was 5th in receiving yards and 3rd in receptions among tight ends. And some of that could have been more if Mahomes hits him on the wide open plays there. Mahomes dealt with that partially because of the offensive line. They got to fix that offensive line, man. They really do. And when you look at the draft, and obviously this is not set in stone, but a guy like Josh Connerly Jr. from Oregon is someone who the Chiefs consider. Might even move up to try to get him. That would be a good pickup right there. Cam Robinson's available in free agency. Not a great selection of free agents for left tackles there. Certainly not. Yeah, I'm seeing some people's comments about Travis Kelce. It is crazy how it is kind of a mixed bag. A lot of people, from hearing Travis Kelce's comments, they think he's retiring or they think he's coming back for 1 more year. So I don't know. I'll let you guys be the judge on that one here. Here's one thing. I will never say if a player should retire. I just don't like that. I went to KU. So, I obviously basketball is very big there. The thing that really annoyed me is when students would say, Ben McLemore or Andrew Wiggins or Joel Embiid, they should not go to the NBA. They should stay for 1 more year and get experience. You're not a scout. All the mock drafts have them going in the top 5, top 10. You're really going to tell them to miss out on millions of dollars, possibly risk injury and hurt their draft stock for the future? Like, come on. I don't like when people talk about what an athlete should do, a college athlete and a pro athlete for retirement and whatnot. You'll never hear me say if an athlete should retire or not. I'll definitely never say that about Travis Kelce or anybody. But that is on the table for sure for Kelce. Here's something I want to ask you guys. Is the Chiefs run quote unquote over? Because that's been a big talking point this week as well in the Super Bowl aftermath. I already said this to you guys on this show and in past shows. I did say that I think the Chiefs are going to enter that hiatus period of appearing in a Super Bowl. In fact, it would not surprise me if the Chiefs missed the AFC Championship this year for the first time in the Mahomes era, because of the amount of turnover this year, which we've kind of covered in great lengths here. Look, Tom Brady went 10 years between his 3rd ring and his 4th ring. Now, he did have 2 Super Bowl appearances in there. Those were the 2 losses, both of them to Eli Manning and the New York Giants. So I think the Chiefs are going to go through a very similar phase where they deal with a lot of turnover, might even deal with some changes on the coaching staff. We'll see. I know Spags and Reed, they're both up there in their 60s. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. Because if the Chiefs were to have an early exit in one of these playoff games, postseasons, which could happen next year, that might make it a little more enticing to hire Spags and give him 1 more shot at being a head coach. I'm not saying, listen, obviously Kellen Moore just got hired, but we have seen we don't see it often where teams are willing to wait until February to hire a head coach. They kind of want to get the ball rolling as early as possible. So we'll see there. Listen, I think the core group with Mahomes, Jones, and Kelce, specifically Kelce, I think the run for Kelce could be over. I think there's a strong possibility he may have played in his final Super Bowl, but the Chiefs' run is not over. Listen, I remember when the Patriots had that 2-2 start in 2014. Remember when the Patriots got blown out on that Monday Night Football game? Oh, yeah, to Kansas City. Everybody wrote off the Patriots, including their own fan base. I was working at 610 Sports Radio at the time, and that was like a wild time because the Chiefs had that Monday Night Football game where they just destroyed Tom Brady and the Pats. And it was funny because the funniest part about that game was Gronk got a touchdown in garbage time from Jimmy Garoppolo, and he didn't do his signature spike. He just flinged it to the ref. Yeah, I mean, the next day was a Royals wildcard game, which was the first postseason game in forever for the Royals. And I remember because of the excitement at the time, 610 was going 24 hours nonstop. And to take a little bit of a break overnight, they actually turned on. Now I was not there when this happened, but they turned on WEEI radio, which is the sports talk radio station in Boston, one of the sports talk stations there. Dude, they were writing off Brady and Belichick. They were like, yeah, this is not palpable anymore. We can't afford to have these guys. They got to go. And then what happened? They won a Super Bowl that year. And they were doubted again by their own fan base and media. And they won another Super Bowl, I think, in 2017. So, listen, there are going to be, hopefully the Chiefs don't have to deal with anything like that, but they are going to have a bit of a hiatus here. So I think people need to understand that there might be a couple of seasons at the very least where the Chiefs do not go back to the Super Bowl, and it could take them a couple of years. So that's just how I feel about the Chiefs dynasty moving forward. I think they'll be back. Just might not be anytime soon. Might take a year or two before they head back there. Saquon Barkley was on the Howard Stern show today. Obviously, you guys all know who Howard Stern is. And he spoke up about Taylor Swift. Boy, an athlete talking about another man's wife. Yeah, or not wife, but girlfriend. But he actually had positive things to say. In fact, he actually criticized the people who booed Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift was shown on the video board and was met with a heavy load of boos there. Could be for a myriad of reasons. Some people think it has to do with the fact that she was once an Eagles fan and is now a Chiefs fan because of who she's dating and supporting. Imagine booing someone for that. Another reason could be that it could be political. I know the president chose to throw some shade her way for being booed because everything's political nowadays. But he spoke up against this and talked about how he didn't get it. Because Taylor Swift has brought a lot of eyes. And listen, say what you want about the Swifties. I've certainly dealt with my criticism of the Swifties. Anytime you criticize Travis Kelce, even if it's correct, Swifties don't like it. It's you can never say anything bad about Uncle Travi. But so the Swifties were not, they don't like any negativity. In fact, I think it was CJ Gardner-Johnson who criticized Kelce for breaking up with his ex-girlfriend, Kayla. And she seems to still, use the clout of being Travis's ex, because she had a nice little moment with her Instagram where she was rubbing it in, obviously. So CJ Gardner-Johnson said that. That's a really weird thing to say about a player saying that about another player's wife or girlfriend. I thought players were above that kind of shit. But the Swifties found CJ Gardner-Johnson's mom's restaurant, and they're leaving all types of bad reviews. And listen, I don't agree with what CJ Gardner-Johnson said, and I don't agree with what the Swifties are doing, leaving bad reviews. His mom did an interview with TMZ. She's like, "Oh, we're selling that restaurant." Sure, yeah, I totally believe that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird what this kind of has turned into. But Saquon Barkley said in the Howard Stern interview that Taylor Swift has been great for football. I mean, keep something in mind. The salary cap, the way it rose last offseason, had a huge part because of Taylor Swift. I mean, and again, I don't understand people who go bonkers over, oh, they're showing her on TV. They show her for a total of 30 seconds. Calm down. Some of you guys are probably on your phone and you miss her being shown on TV, yet you still bitch and moan about it. Like, I don't get it. Here's something I've learned over the years, just kind of, getting out of my 20s and whatnot. I just feel like so many people out there complain about things that are not worth complaining about at all. If you complain that they're showing someone too much, you need to seriously go outside and get a hobby. Please, for the love of God, do something worthy in your life. It's just insane. I know Colin Cowherd did a bit on this where he was just ripping apart people who are lonely and all they do is cry about Taylor Swift being shown on TV. Jack Nicholson constantly gets shown every single Lakers game. They make it a point to let you know that Jack Nicholson is there, and they'll let you know multiple times. Again, I don't know if he still does. I haven't followed the NBA as closely as I used to. But, I mean, no one was bitching and moaning about that. Nobody was crying about Eminem being shown multiple times during Lions games. I mean, I get Eminem's probably not dating anyone on the team, but still, the point still stands. They're showing him. They show Josh Allen's fiance now a couple times on TV. It's like, again, the fact that we're still discussing this more than a year later is wild to me, but have at it. A former Chief was arrested today, and this guy dropped the ball. Sounds familiar, right? Yeah, Kadarius Toney was arrested, according to TMZ. The story came out today. The arrest happened earlier this month, and the report is he allegedly strangled a woman. Yeah, that's what he's doing with his hands now. I can't catch a bass, but is assaulting women. Good on you, Kadarius Toney. I mean, come on, really? Really, KT? Dude, this guy's been on a decline. I mean, the talent he has, Kansas City obviously looked like he was making headway, making improvements, but then that 2023 season just never figured it out. The Chiefs let him go. He goes to Cleveland and has maybe if you thought the games that he had last year was bad with Kansas City, he had a big drop in one game. He fumbled a punt return in another and then committed an unsportsmanlike penalty. Like, that was worse than any Chiefs game he had been a part of. Now, the offside one, yeah, I mean, he cost the team big time. And that was when he had the touchdown catch, too. Or not a touchdown catch, but a lateral from Kelce. So he nullified his own touchdown there, which was great. Yeah. That guy might not play football ever again. Going to be a very long time until he plays football. This video went viral last night. Barstool Sports got their hands on some juicy footage. I don't know if this was before or after the Super Bowl, but John Rocker, former Major League Baseball player, a controversial figure given some of the racial comments he's made, he and Pat Mahomes Sr., not Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of the Chiefs, Pat Mahomes Sr., the father of Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback. They're both former Major League pitchers. And they were both spotted in NOLA, and they came across each other. Rocker saw Mahomes, Pat Mahomes Sr., that is, and you can't really quite tell what's being said. You can tell Rocker made some sort of a snarky comment, and Pat Mahomes, I think, gave him a little shove there because he clearly did not appreciate what was said. And there are people who are having to get in between them. Rocker throws his drink, not at his cup, not at Mahomes, but just at the ground towards Mahomes. That's mature. Then they kind of barked at each other on social media. According to Dave Portnoy, he has found a way he claims that they've signed it and they've agreed. There's going to be a boxing match between John Rocker and Pat Mahomes Sr. My thoughts and prayers are with Pat Mahomes Sr. Because John Rocker, that dude is big and nasty. He looks like he could. If that guy walked up to me and he's like, "Hey, I'm a bouncer at a Las Vegas nightclub," I would believe him. I would absolutely believe him. That dude still looks like he's in really good shape. you can tell he still goes to the gym, let's just say. So my prayers go out to Pat Mahomes Sr. I hope he's getting a lot of money out of this, because otherwise this is not going to look good. It's just not. It's really not. Last thing here before we sign off. Actually, two quick things. Actually, you know what? I'll save the other one for the Red Friday live chat. Real quickly, this one. Dak Prescott says the Dallas Cowboys are, quote, very close to a championship run, according to Adam Schefter. My only question is this very close run for a championship going to be on Xbox or PlayStation? Because it sure as hell is not happening in real life. No, it's not happening. That is not happening. I mean, listen, the Cowboys had a very disappointing playoff performance a couple of years ago, and then this past year, a 7-win season, just not good at all. I don't know where he gets this idea that they're close, but I think they've got a lot to figure out before they even consider a championship run. So, I mean, listen, I can certainly respect and appreciate the optimism. Like, well, what are you going to say? Oh, man, we're light years away. No, no one's ever going to say that publicly. But Dak Prescott, I don't know, man. Because things in Dallas are always taken very seriously. So if you make a comment like this, Cowboys fans are going to remember that. And if you cannot keep your promises, it's going to be very hard to be forgiven in Dallas. Let's just put it that way. The one thing I will push to the Red Friday live chat rather than doing it today, I do want to discuss the All Dynasty team. The Patriots have an All Dynasty team. Obviously, they've had an 18-year run where they can 18, 17 year, because I think they're only including where the first Super Bowl took place to the last Super Bowl or when Brady left. But they have an All Dynasty team. And I thought, you know what? We're kind of at a point now, regardless of what happened in Super Bowl 59, we can put together an All Dynasty team. Rather than going over it today, I am going to save it for the Red Friday live chat. Red Friday live chat this week is going to be at 5:00. And again, this could be the last Red Friday live chat for a week or two, unless there's some breaking news that happens. For those who missed it earlier on, obviously we did the podcast Mondays and Wednesdays during the season, plus the Red Friday live chat. Plus we did a podcast anytime there was breaking news or if we had a guest. But we are going to revert back to Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Central Time. And anytime there is breaking news or a guest, we'll have the podcast on then. As far as the Red Friday live chat goes, we'll do one this Friday. But moving forward, it could be kind of sporadic. So all I can say is make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and following on Facebook, because on YouTube, if you have the bell notification turned on, you'll get a notification sent to your phone right away when we go live. So you'll at least know when we go live. I know that capability is not possible with Facebook. But at the end of the day, we are going to start having fewer live streams. There will still be a lot of video content as far as reels go, both on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, all of those. I said both, but I meant all of those. So that is that's still something you guys have to look forward to. But as far as live streams go, yeah, we're going to probably tone it down a bit because there's not a whole hell of a lot to discuss. Obviously, we'll do more live streams when the combine's taking place. Obviously, the weekend of the draft, the first wave of free agency. Yeah, we'll have a lot of that stuff. So that's something to look forward to in the near future. Also, for those wondering, I didn't address this. The reason we're doing the podcast today a little earlier, I was going to do it for 7:00 Central Time, which is in 40 minutes. But Melody has a conference this weekend, and I definitely want to do an episode of Farscast this week. And it just turned out the only time she could really do it was tonight. So we're audibling and changing things left and right here. So for those of you who are still around here, for those of you watching on YouTube, this won't be on YouTube. It'll be on my Facebook page, though. We will be doing Farscast in about, give or take, 40 minutes. So I'm going to take a little break here, just chill out, get something to eat, and come back. And then Melody and I will do Farscast live on my YouTube, on my Facebook page and her Facebook page. Otherwise, for those of you tuning in for the Chiefs Zone. Thank you all. Appreciate all of you tuning in. A lot we covered here today. If you missed any part of the show, the podcast version will be up shortly. You can check the archive version right away on Facebook and YouTube. Otherwise, I will talk to you all later. Take care.